Hello and welcome to Transplant's Take on Sport. My name is Lewis Daniels and joining me today is kidney recipient and cricketer, hockey player, badminton player and golfer Matt Coombs. We talk about Matt's sporting achievements, including beating Australia at cricket, as well as dealing with kidney failure as a teenager, recovering from multiple surgeries, living in more than one country and long-distance marriage. Matt also bravely opens up about a topic he's only recently been able to talk about and how important talking to friends can be for your mental health, so please stick around for what is a fascinating listen. If you're enjoying the podcast, then please make sure you press subscribe or follow on the app of your choice so you don't miss an episode. And if you'd like to follow the podcast on social media, all the links will be in the show notes. Matt Coombs, welcome to Transplant's Take on Sport.
Hi Lewis, nice to be here, thank you.
Thank you for coming on. I think people find this useful, and there's many sports that you do. Before we get started, just wanted to say that by the time you're listening to this, I will have had the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine.
Oh, nice.
So after I've had that, when I next record one, I'll let you know how that goes on. Hopefully no side effects.
Yeah.
I know we know a few people who've had it themselves and they've been fine. So fingers crossed that continues. And if you get offered it, please take it.
Will do, yeah. No one's grown a second head or turned into an elephant, so that's all right.
5G running through the veins.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I could see that being useful.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
So, Matt, we'll come on to your kidney stuff first.
Yeah.
Like me, you've had a kidney transplant.
Yep.
I've read your story on Share Your Wishes, which I searched for yesterday, and your kidney problems started quite early, didn't they? When did you first find out?
It's been kidney issues have been a part of my life since birth. An underdeveloped, urethra was found in quite an early scan when I was still developing in the womb. So kidney problems have been there since I was born, basically. And I lost a kidney because of reflux and early stages of cancer when I was very small. And then very quickly, my other kidney began to fail when I was about 13, 14 years old. And I spent 4.5 years waiting for a transplant, which I had in 2005.
Excellent. So the first one that was removed, did you have, you said you were young, you've got much recollection, or did you have much knowledge at the time of that removal?
None whatsoever. I was less than 2 when that first one got lost.
Right.
I still bear the surgical scars, obviously, because that young, you're growing all the time. The surgical scars take longer to heal up. Techniques were less good as they are now. I'm not sure that's the right phrase. And to be honest, there were some other complications that I'm still not fully aware of that meant that removing my kidney took 4 operations when normally it only takes 1. So I was in and out of hospital several times because I was also born with cleft lip and cleft palate. So I'd had my number of operations was into double figures before I turned 5 or 6 years old.
Wow, that must have been hard.
Yeah, it has been a grind. I had my 19th operation in November 2019, which was having my tonsils out.
That's a lot. I've had one, which was the transplant itself. That was my first one.
Yeah.
So hopefully no more. But
yeah, fingers crossed.
You're an expert on that front.
I try to be.
So what was the actual cause of the kidney failure when you were 13, 14?
I was diagnosed with chronic renal failure and associated metabolic bone disease. And a really fun game to play is to say that after you've necked a pint. No, I don't really know what the cause of the remaining kidney to fail. I know that there was some minimal damage from when I lost my first kidney. But what happened was I was at a boarding school here in Somerset at the time, and my parents were living out in Saudi Arabia, and a gastrointestinal infection went through the boarding school, and I think we were actually completely quarantined for about a week. And I never fully recovered from that. I was very underweight, no appetite, looked horrendous. And then I was playing football one day and got hit in the kidney because I was in goal. Actually saved a shot, hit my hand, hit the post, rebounded straight into my remaining kidney, and I've never felt pain like it. I went down like a sack of potatoes. Um, and in the 3 or 4 minutes it took me to get me from the school playing field up to the matron's office, the bruising was already black and purple, and I was peeing blood. And the matron said, "Well, that's not right." And off I went to hospital, and I had to have probably 3 months worth of blood and urine tests, other things as well. And they said at one point they said it could be diabetes, it could be another form of cancer, it could be a form of kidney failure. They rattled off 4 or 5 things, and in the end, the diagnosis was chronic renal failure. Chronic renal failure, excuse me, and I was put on the wait list for a transplant.
So it's all happened very quickly. Was it a particularly hard shot?
Massive, absolutely huge. I was terrified.
Sorry, but the football shot, was that hard?
Yeah. Sorry, I thought you. Oh, it's just what you meant now. Yeah, the football shot that felt pretty hard. I don't remember it much now. I know it came from one of the older guys, and yeah, it felt like a bullet.
So, I'd never heard that, but
Yeah,
that's very, very quick suddenly. So you've gone from active at school playing football,
yeah,
and then suddenly, bang, shot down with kidney failure.
yeah.
So did you have to go on dialysis while you were waiting?
I got very, very lucky with my transplant. I was never on dialysis, for which I'm truly grateful for.
I was the same. I think it's supposed to be the gold standard, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think they say that a transplanted kidney lasts a lot longer if you don't go on dialysis. But then with that, I got an absolutely perfect match from my dad as well. So I got lucky twice.
We'll come on to that now. That you transplant from your dad.
Yeah.
That was 2005.
Yep. April 26th, 2005.
And how old were you at that point?
18.
18. So it's a lot to go through at a young age. How much did that affect you going through it so young, with school, college, wherever you were at the time?
School was actually a major part of it because my parents actually home was Saudi Arabia and had been for 11 years. And this diagnosis came through. My dad was really struggling living and working out in Saudi Arabia. Me being that unwell was the final nail in the coffin. So dad lost his job out in Saudi, which meant I had to leave the boarding school in Somerset. So, and we already had the house here in Chard. But sort of a whole massive route for the entire family. Fortunately, my brother, who's older than me, he was actually leaving the boarding school. He'd done his GCSEs that year, so for him it was no problem whatsoever. Well, I say that I don't think it was very nice for him knowing that I was unwell, but he started going to Yeovil College, which a lot of the same people that he was in his year as went to. So he still saw a lot of the same people. I had new school, new friends, new environment, illness. And at one point, I wasn't coping with it at all. I was absolutely terrified of this state school I was going to in here in Chard, because boarding school, yeah, it's a boarding school and you're miles away from your family. There was about 350 people in the entire school. There was that many people in my year group at the state school.
Yeah, I did state school from year 7 to 11 and then moved to a private sixth form. And the difference in numbers is
Oh yeah,
huge. So the state school was from that was year 7 to 11, and there was about 200 per year. So there'd be 1,000 people in a school.
yeah,
And then I went to sixth form, which was part of a school.
yeah,
And they were from nursery to the last year of sixth form. So they were 3 to 18.
yeah,
And there was only 700 people in the school.
yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, at that age, and when you've been used to the boarding school, were you there all the way through your life?
I was at boarding school from I did 3 years of primary and 3 years of secondary, and then I did my GCSEs at the state school.
Right. So yeah, it's quite a long time to get used to it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and then only 2 years of the state school. And there was lots of little things with that. When you go to a boarding school in one country and live in another, you essentially have two sets of friends: the friends you see on holiday and the friends you see at school. And when it's somewhere like Saudi Arabia, where there's a lot of military brats, a lot of military personnel, there's also a lot of changes because people get different contracts and they go to this, that, and the other part of the world. So that's quite that changes every summer, sort of thing. You see new people every summer, new people, new experiences, which can be a good thing, but can also be a bad thing for the guys that are being constantly uprooted every 2 or 3 years. For me, I didn't have that. Saudi Arabia was home for 11 years.
All right. So you spend a lot of time there then?
Yeah,
I mean, the whole summer.
yeah, I loved Saudi Arabia.
So was that like most of your school holidays we spent over there?
Yeah, I would say probably most summers and most Christmases were out in Saudi, and then for the Easter we were here in Somerset in the house we got now in Chard.
All right, so it's well travelled then.
Yeah, because on top of all of that, I also spent a little while living in Ecuador, which is where I met my wife.
Wow. We'll have a talk about that if you want, if you're happy to.
Yeah.
How did you end up? How did you end up over in Ecuador?
Um, I was just trying to think now. Basically, I got my first job after my transplant, which is a warehouse job for a company that was a distribution partner for Lacoste. Lost that due to mental health. Just couldn't cope with it because I struggled weirdly more after my transplant than I did before. Had a year unemployment and went to college and did 2 years at college. Decided that I'd go to university, but through college I was like older by several years. I was in my 20s and these guys were 16, 17. So excuse me, huge age difference there. And I thought I just wanted to try something completely different. Wanted a summer holiday elsewhere. I was going to go on a backpacking trip around part of Eastern Europe, but a friend of mine said it's been done, it's too touristy, go to South America. And through that, I decided on a holiday in Ecuador. Had already met someone in Ecuador who is now my wife.
Oh wow, such a
Yeah.
nice story.
Yeah.
So I'm presuming now, well, in normal circumstances,
Mm.
do you go over there a lot still?
Yeah, it's a very tricky marriage actually because we've never got the visa sorted. So I'm here in the UK and Monica's over in Ecuador. Hi, honey. Yeah, and it it's really difficult with the pandemic. The situation in Ecuador. I'm not trying to dumb down what we've been through in the UK and one of the countries, but in Ecuador it's so much harder because they're not getting a vaccine at the moment. They've got so many people not following the rules. It's a much poorer country. It's amazing, and when things are back to normal, I'd recommend it as a holiday to anyone. But it's just such a tricky situation. Monica and I have been apart for, I think, coming up 2 years in May, and we have no idea when we'll see each other again. So that's a huge thing, and the pandemic hasn't helped at all.
Hopefully, you can see each other soon.
Fingers crossed.
So that their situation is a lot. Is that you said it's a lot worse than
Oh
here?
yeah, absolutely. There's been, I mean, we've had it here in the UK. They've had a lot of irresponsible people